Sunny day, saplings. Today, Riot has gazed down upon us and blessed us by remembering that Ivern still exists. They have given us a peace offering in the form of a buff. This buff is going to be live for the Worlds patch, patch 10.19, and it's going to be increasing the slow on our shields. This is an amazing buff for Ivern, and it's going to shoot up his win rate. To me, it's very surprising that they would touch his E ability. I thought they would meme us with like 5% movement speed, for example, but they gave us extra slowing power. And many Iverns are afraid that this buff is going to be too big. So in the future, they're worried he's going to receive extra nerfs to compensate. To many Ivern mains, Ivern is already sleeper OP. He has many good matchups in the meta. He can abuse support items being so cheap, and he's really low econ, meaning he's useful with little gold. And what does that mean? That means more gold can be funneled into your carries. He's not like a Lee Sin or Kha'Zix that needs to take those early kills to be relevant. Why are we so concerned? The answer to that can be found in the data from when Ivern was first released. Ivern was released in patch 6.20, where he had a 70% slow at all ranks. It was only 4 patches that Riot decided, you know what, that is way too overpowered, and they changed it to the 40 to 60% slow scaling with rank that we know and love today. That has remained unchanged until now, Worlds patch 10.19. The reasoning for the initial nerf was, and I'm quoting this directly from the balance team, his mid and late games seem about right, but the consistency of his early ganks is too damn high. Trigger Seed is the main offender, with the slow providing too much consistency early on, and combined with his unique clear speed, he is posing too much of an early threat to laners. I think we're entering a world where Ivern's early ganks are going to be more consistent than ever, easier to follow up on with increasing the slow, and that's going to make it easier for us to hit our CCs, and that's going to help us scale with those super OP cheap support items. I personally guarantee we will see Ivern at the World Championships this coming October. He is just too strong with way too many good matchups, and I think a bunch of teams are going to take advantage of this buff. Alright, let's talk about the buff itself. Note the image on the screen right now. This is the order in which you should take all of your abilities. As you can see, we scale Ivern's shield very first. For every rank, we gain 5 additional slowing on our shield. So at the start of the game, level 1, we will now have the same slowing power as we would have had at level 5 pre-buff, which is 50% slowing. By level 8, we will have 70% slowing on our shield, which is Ivern's pre-nerf release level of slowing. I know some of you are visual learners, so let's add some context to the picture. If our shield is at 70% slowing, it's more powerful than Hextech GLP 800, which is only 65% slowing, Twin Shadows is only 40% slowing, and Glacial Augment with an item active is maximum 60% slowing from that rune. Our level 1 shield is more powerful than Twin Shadows will ever be during the whole game. And at rank 3, we are essentially now just a walking Hextech GLP 800. Why is that good for Ivern? Well, it's good because a heavier early game slow is going to make it a lot easier for us to gank, as we're going to have better setup with the slows for our Q, and it's going to let our ganks be a lot more consistent, and we're going to be able to chase down enemies easier in the early game. As you know, the early game can be rather challenging for Ivern because this Q projectile is very slow, and it can be sometimes tough to hit it on quicker targets. This is also going to allow us to deal more DPS with Summonary and our bush autos, as our enemies won't be able to run away as quickly. On the flip side, it's going to be easier for us to kite enemies that are chasing us, because Ivern has pretty poor movement speed, and this increased slow is going to allow us to maintain our distance a little bit easier. This is also one of the reasons why I like Boots of Lucidity over movement speed boots, because you're not going to lose all that movement speed when you're in a fight, and so it's a lot easier for us to skirmish in the early game. In tougher matchups like Lee Sin or Volibear, for example, champions that are trying to get on top of you, it's going to make it a little bit easier. Not too much, but you can slow them when they're trying to auto you and chase you down, and that might help you get a little bit of extra distance on the escape. Maybe one of the best parts about this buff is it's going to make the Daisy Bomb a little bit easier and a little bit more DPS. With the extra shield on Daisy, that might be the difference between getting Daisy's knockup or not. And it's going to allow Daisy to auto-attack her target much more quickly and easier during a team fight. For me personally, the main power of this buff is going to be felt in the early to mid game, around first and second dragon. The early dragon secures can be tough for Ivern, but he's quite good at mid game team fights. He just can't take the dragon by himself. While this is still going to be true, those dragon fights are going to be easier with a 50% slow when you have your level 5 and 6 first dragon team fights. It's going to help your tanks engage the fight, it's going to set up stun opportunities for your team, and combine that with making vision walls with all of your bushes and really denying vision over the dragon pit from your enemies. You'll be easily able to pounce out of a bush for a 5-man, 50% slow at the first drag. Just shield your Renekton and let them jump in there. Honestly, as the game goes later on, this buff is less and less noticeable because someone who's kind of slowed at 60% in the late game is probably going to die just as easy as someone who's slowed 70%. But obviously, all extra utility is good for us. However, Ivern's issues were never really in the late game. He's very strong mid to late in my opinion. This is still a win for Ivern mains around the world, getting a buff to our early game. Keep in mind, however, though Ivern has good matchups in the meta, this buff is not going to change the impossible matchups that he currently does have, which are 1 Graves, 2 Kindred, and 3 Olaf. These 3 characters have more than enough ways to combat an extra 10% slowing on your shield, invade you, run you down, and ultimately make your life very, very difficult. My thoughts on this buff are it's probably going to push Glacial Augment to be more obsolete than it already is, and Summonary is going to rise up in priority with the increased kiting and auto attacking and DPS that you're able to deal early game through the different skirmishes. This should give you extra power in those early game skirmishes. I believe Guardian is going to remain unchanged and should only be used in the toughest matchups. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Ivern buff. All I can say is I can't wait for Worlds to start. If you liked the video, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the buff. This is just one Mossy Elder take on this new buff for Ivern. I'm really excited to try them out. For more Ivern content, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for the 500 subs. If you haven't checked out my 500 sub video, go check it out. It's on the old YouTube channel. And of course, come check us out on twitch.tv/MossyElder every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll see you there. Have a sunny day, saplings. Bye.